you're tuning into our weekly culture journal, Culture Mosaic. I'm your host, Lane. Now, in today's show, we'll introduce you to a group of local volunteers who help guide foreign visitors around Hanoi and give them insight into the capital city's culture. Later, don't miss our exclusive interview with the talented Gary Thomas, an experimental filmmaker coming all the way from the UK. And last but not least, we have a chance to enjoy a friendly sport day-themed football party held between foreign embassies and various Vietnamese ministries. So stay tuned. Hanoi Kids, little ambassadors of Hanoi. Experimental filmmaking experience shared with local filmmakers. And foreign embassies, Vietnamese agencies join football party. Now, local news comes first with the most outstanding cultural events of the last week. Nearly 100 maps and documents, texts, artifacts, and publications providing historical and legal evidence of Vietnam's Paracel and Spratly archipelagos are on display in the central province of Quảng Ngãi only this week. The exhibition aims to show that Vietnam has established its sovereignty over the two archipelagos since feudal times. The exhibition also boasts a collection of 65 maps published in Europe in the 17th century that testify Vietnam's sovereignty over the archipelagos. In addition, 4 atlases and 30 maps published by China's governments and dynasties repudiate China's claims in the East Sea. All the materials of the exhibition will be presented to the Municipal People's Committee by the Ministry of Information and Communication. The government has issued a resolution regarding the granting of the titles People's Artist and Artist with Distinction in the field of intangible cultural heritage. The resolution is an important part of heritage preservation efforts, and thousands of pupils with People's Artist titles will be motivated to preserve and develop their folk arts. Let's find out more.
7 generations of Nguyễn Văn Mui's family have pursued a career in Kachu singing, and he set up one of the biggest Kachu troops in Hanoi. He and his children have overcome numerous difficulties to preserve the sound of the Kachu drum, but they have never received any preferential policies or titles from the state. Now in his old age, it is a great joy for him and his family to witness the issuance of the resolution.
Ngày trước thì không ai ta nghĩ đến cả, mình chỉ giữ cái nghề tổ của mình là vì từ xưa nay là ông cha mình để lại cho mình cái nghề đó, thì bây giờ tôi vẫn cứ giữ thôi. Thì chúng tôi cũng rất là mừng và rất là quý trọng các cái ý kiến của cấp trên mà đã nghĩ đến chúng tôi.
The materials and images collected during a lifetime of Kachu have been well preserved by Mr. Mui. Under the procedures for granting titles, they are indispensable evidence for Mr. Mui to receive the title. However, thousands of other folk artists who live in remote areas cannot take part in contests or events, so there's no evidence for their work. Tô Ngọc Thanh from the Folk Art Association expressed his concerns.
Nếu mà yêu cầu là những băng đĩa hình ảnh mô tả tri thức kỹ năng đang nắm giữ rồi bản sao công chứng thì xin nói với bạn là chẳng có nghệ nhân nào có cả. Nghệ nhân là con người của nhân dân, của làng xóm, không phải các cuộc liên hoan, cũng không phải các cuộc đua tài, mà họ sống trong lòng nhân dân. Thì hãy đến với nhân dân để nhân dân nói được.
Considering these concerns, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism has confirmed that the files should include images and materials proving their achievements. Recognition from local authorities shall also be considered.
Now, last year, UNESCO recognized Vietnam's đơn ca tài tử, or Southern folk music, as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. However, how to further develop this art form to justify this prestigious conferral is still a question that authorities in the southern provinces are mulling over.
There are currently 2,200 Đơn Ca Tài Tử clubs operating in the south of Vietnam with nearly 14,000 participants. However, these clubs are not well organized, and the instruction available for the younger generation is quite limited. This is a problem in the conversation and further development of Đơn Ca Tài Tử.
Cái giải pháp bảo tồn như thế nào đó để cho nó hữu hiệu. Chứ nếu không mình hô khẩu hiệu không rồi cái qua lễ vinh danh rồi mà mình không làm gì hết thì làm sao bảo tồn. Cho nên bảo tồn đó là phải trước hết là về mặt nhận thức. Cái thứ hai là phải có chính sách cụ thể. Ở địa phương không có chờ trung ương gì hết.
Cái sự đầu tư hiện nay nó cũng chưa có đúng mức mà cũng chưa có đúng tầm. Thì chúng ta phải có một cái kế hoạch cụ thể để đầu tư về truyền dạy.
Researchers and artists also believe that making the community understand the value of the art form is important. Đơn Ca Tài Tử teaching in school needs to be further promoted, and there needs to be more Đơn Ca Tài Tử performances and festivals. This is one of the conversation missions that the Southern Provincial authorities committed to when UNESCO granted the Heritage Award.
Kiến nghị chính phủ là ban hành cái chương trình hành động quốc gia về cái bảo vệ cái di sản này, là làm sao phổ biến rộng rãi cái di sản này. Chính người ta phổ biến rộng rãi, ta biết đó, ta tự giác.
The ministry is also planning to honor and award Đơn Ca Tài Tử artists. With all the plans and attention from the government, hopefully this unique art form will go from strength to strength in the future.
To mark the 10th of Vietnam Cultural Heritage Day, a photo contest was jointly held in Ho Chi Minh City by the Cultural Heritage Association of Vietnam and Vietnam Heritage Magazine. This year's competition, with the theme Vietnam's Soul, aims to call on people's awareness to promote and preserve the cultural and natural heritage of Vietnam. Both domestic and international entrants are encouraged to base their efforts on recording landscapes or traditional customs throughout the nation. Organizers expect to grant 30 prizes on November the 23rd, Vietnam's Cultural Heritage Day. Hanoi is a beautiful maze. Dubbed the Paris of Asia, Hanoi has its all, the ancient history, the colonial legacy, and the modern outlook. However, not all visitors to this exotic city can get a chance to experience the right way, like a local. Hanoi Kids, a student-run organization, offers visitors here a chance to do just that. By voluntarily leading city tours, the Hanoi Kids give travelers from all over the world an insight into Vietnamese culture, tradition, and beautiful sceneries. It is a beautiful day here in the old quarter of Hanoi, and if you're a tourist, what better way to spend it than to do a little sightseeing here? But here in the crazy tangled web of streets that is the old quarter, it might be easy to walk around, but not so easy to find your way back. Well, today I'm going to introduce you to a group of college students here in Hanoi who will give you a tour of the city for free. Come with me.
We met with Huyền Anh and Huy Phương, both second-year students at the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam. Leading tours around their hometown has become a regular activity for them, and their companions today are two families from New Zealand who are visiting Vietnam for the very first time.
Where you want to visit, and
These kids are no ordinary tour guides. Walking through the ancient history of the old quarter, these newly met friends discuss not only Vietnamese culture and the sights seen during the tour, but also exchange details about their lives, career, school life, and everything in between.
it's just fabulous because rather than a professional tour group, you've got young people who live here, so we're getting to know someone personally, and when we remember Vietnam, we're going to have their faces just in front of us. They're going to be that special link. And also, we're able to ask a whole lot of questions that we wouldn't ask in a group, and So our whole experience here is a lot richer because of it. That would be good to buy.
What a fantastic way to actually get a look at Hanoi life and so on. I think it's a brilliant idea what they do. And we learn about the culture and how the people live and so on, and we get a commentary. It's a fantastic idea. It's number one on the list to do in Hanoi when you arrive. Good introduction to Hanoi.
So you tried a lot of it.
The perks are not only for the visitors. For over a year now, Huyền Anh has been leading tours like this once or twice a week while balancing her schoolwork. Although this job doesn't earn her any income, it is a valuable experience all the same.
I can better my English, and then I would know about the different cultures all over the world, and also to introduce Hanoi and Vietnam to the foreigners. Moreover, I have friends, I have brothers and sisters, and we are now like a family in our club.
Huyền Anh's second family, the Hanoi Kids, is a network of college students in the city who have been working to enhance Hanoi tourism since the group's inception in May 2006. With the motto, "Be a little ambassador of Hanoi," they get rewarded for their chores not with money, but with a chance to practice English.
Since I joined Hanoi Kids, I have learned so much small, although really small thing, but people usually ignore it. And I also learned how to appreciate the beautiful cultural things in Hanoi. Now I feel inspired. I feel that I love everything I say and I introduce to the foreign visitors.
All 300 members of the Hanoi Kids are college age and are carefully selected twice a year. They then have to go through a 2-month training period at popular attractions in the city to extend their knowledge. After proper training, the Hanoi Kids can confirm tours according to the class schedule.
I hope that by participating in Hanoi Kids, I will improve my English to a higher level, and I will have the chance to perfect some of my skills like presentation skills, and I will hope to learn more about the countries around the world. So because all of these information will be very useful for my future job.
After 8 years in operation, Hanoi Kids is now recognized as the leading non-profit volunteer organization in Vietnam. Over the years, members of the organization have led city tours for special guests like the Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard, U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy, U.S. Trade Representatives Ron Kirk, and many others. 3-time winner of TripAdvisor's Certificate of Excellence, a tour with the Hanoi Kids is a must-do in the capital city.
You're tuning in to Culture Mosaic, a weekly journal featuring the rich cultural diversity of Vietnam and vibrant international cultural events happening around the country. We hope to become the bridge connecting artists and the words with our viewers out there. So don't go away, we have a lot more in this week's installment coming for you in just a moment. While the motion picture developed rapidly, from its early decades, there were artists and filmmakers interested in exploring the new technology's potential outside or beyond the mainstream modes. They are experimental filmmakers. And a recent talk with Gary Thomas, a UK producer with local filmmakers, have brought this art form closer to Vietnamese film industry.
Experimental filmmaking took form in the 1920s, primarily in Europe, with significant contributions from the UK, with its long tradition in creativity and experimental work. Since the 1940s, the British Post Office has used films to tell people to post early for Christmas, but that was actually a form of experimental art. In recent years, a unique collection of experimental films has been released, which has served as a platform for both emerging and established British artists like Gary Thomas. With over 20 years' experience of producing experimental films and animation, he came to Vietnam to talk with local filmmakers and share his knowledge on the subject.
Hello Gary, and thank you for being on the show. First of all, what are the reasons behind your talk on experimental filmmaking and animation in Vietnam?
Well, I work for the British Council, which is the UK's cultural relations organisation, and I'm in the film team, and my region is East Asia, and we do a lot of work in Vietnam especially, so I've come to talk with colleagues. And my company, Animate Projects, has been going for more than 20 years. Well, the company's been going for 7 years, but the project's been going for 20 years. It's important to come to my talk because it's important to find out what other artists do and what other artists have done, because you don't want to do the same.
I understand that Animate Project is a company dedicated to experimental animation. So what is the difference between experimental and character animation?
It doesn't always tell a story, and I think you need to think about it as more like visual arts kind of thing. So it's people who have a fine art practice who make animation. But having said that, we work with people who are artists, but we also work with people who make, in their day job, make character animation or make commercials, but want to experiment and test their creativity. And artists like to, just as painters like to, explore with paint, and sculptors with materials. Animators like to work with different kinds of techniques.
Is it because we were thrown out? We can't keep still in the womb.
Animation has always played a significant role in experimental filmmaking. Regarding Garden is among many projects produced by Gary Thomas. It was based on a historic house from the 1700s, with a garden of plants from all over the world. The project is a historic response to the garden with images of the actual fruits and plants that grew there.
Who do you let in? Who do you keep out? Wrap yourself in tarp before the winter comes.
As far as experimental filmmaking goes, what advice would you give to filmmakers in Vietnam?
I think that's the same for all artists, that you need to find your own voice. You need to find out what it is you want to say, and then the right way of the right means of how to say that. And that might be through character animation, or through live action film, or through experiment, or painting, or drawing.
So Gary, please tell us a little bit about your past projects.
We've worked on lots of things. Most recently, we did a project and it was a really powerful project for me, where two artists spent time in a cancer research centre and a clinic, and they spent time with the scientists, and another artist spent time with people who have cancer and with the people who were treating them, and they used that experience to make really moving, poignant films. I didn't expect that project to be as powerful as it was. And the films are good, but the whole experience of artists talking to scientists was really, really, really moving to see.
เขาคนที่ว้ามานี่ก็เท้าแห้งนะก็บ่มีแน่ใจว่าผัวของเจ้าของซื้อวันนั้นเลยเราเป็นบุญมีหรือบุญมานี่แหละเพิ่นเว้า
Gary Thomas was involved in a film called Letter to Uncle Bumi. It is part of the multi-platform Primitive project, which focuses on a concept of remembrance and extinction set in Thailand. Using a slow-moving camera to capture the interiors of various houses in the village, the film captures scenes that characterize the violence and repression, as well as the hope of rebirth and remembrance in northeastern Thailand.
You were the producer of a Thai film called A Letter to Uncle Bumi. So how different is it working with Asian directors compared to those from the UK?
It was that was a short film that was part of a big project, and he made a gallery installation and then made a feature film and won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. But it's the same as it's the same. Artists are the same around the world. They're interesting if they have their own stories, and they focus on their own stories and ways of telling those stories that can reach out to an international audience.
In your opinion, how can the collaboration between artists from different countries be improved?
At the British Council, we like to promote British filmmaking, but we're also interested in filmmakers in the rest of the world and how British filmmakers and artists can work with artists around the world. Those artists are infinitely inquisitive, and if an artist is exciting and another artist is exciting, when you put them both together, who knows what you might get out of that.
Among the talk's topics in Hanoi, Gary presented a brief history of experimental film and animation, in addition to screening various experimental animations to the local audience. These examples have provided local filmmakers with new concepts and techniques for experimentation in their films.
Về ngôn ngữ điện ảnh thì nó khá khác biệt ở chỗ là nó không thiên về yếu tố câu chuyện, mà nó thiên về yếu tố hình ảnh và màu sắc và cả âm thanh hơn. Tức là nó có khả năng là làm cho người xem có thể là không nắm bắt câu chuyện, nhưng mà có khả năng cảm nhận khá là chặt chẽ.
Cái thể loại phim hoạt hình này thì nó không sử dụng ngôn ngữ lời nói, thì nó thể hiện mà nó sử dụng hình ảnh. Đúng là theo kiểu nghệ thuật thị giác ấy ạ, nghĩa là dùng hình ảnh để mình nhìn hình ảnh, mình tự cảm nhận nhiều hơn là mình thể hiện qua ngôn ngữ.
Strong images and heavy sound are what impressed the audience this time. And this talk with Gary Thomas is just the beginning of a series of activities being organized by the British Council in Vietnam this year.
Should we expect to see any of your projects in Vietnam soon?
I would hope so. Certainly at the British Council, where we're not only showing, we have a UK Film Week, but also this year we're bringing over a producer who's going to work with the YCNA online film festival and do workshop sessions, and that's exactly the kind of thing I mean. That kind of, it's one thing to show films, but then dialogue between filmmakers means that in the future there'll be other films to show.
Thank you, Gary, for being on the show, and I hope you will have a great time here in Vietnam.
How often do you see ambassadors and ministers become football players? Now here in Hanoi, a friendly sport day themed football party was held at Xuân La Stadium on June the 29th. The football party drew the participation of teams from foreign embassies and from various Vietnamese ministries. Let's join in our Connecting Culture this week to immerse ourselves in the World Cup spirit right here in the capital and see who wins the game.
The ongoing World Cup in Brazil has witnessed a major change in the global football map. France and Germany met in the World Cup quarterfinals on July the 4th for the first time since 1986. In Vietnam, France and Germany embassies jointly organized a friendly tournament to celebrate a multinational passion for football. The event drew the participation of 12. Among them were 5 foreign teams from the embassies of France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and the 5th was made up from Italian and Spanish embassies. The 7 local teams were drawn from various Vietnamese ministries.
We will do the whole FIFA in one day, so much better than 4 weeks in Brazil. We do it in one day, and in the evening we will have the winner. And it's great that it's foreign teams and Vietnamese teams, and we will hopefully see a wonderful match.
The expected wonderful tournament, however, got off to a slow start after pouring rain delayed the qualifiers shortly after the opening ceremony. Banners, flags, the pitch, and the players were all soaked, but the spirits remained high. The format was 7 assigned matches of 20 minutes long, and the 12 teams were divided into 3 groups.
Inside this event, so far so good for our team. I guess that we are qualified for the second round, so it has been a very good performance. We played against the Ministry of Training and Education, and don't tell them, but we won.
The World Cup spirit is overwhelming all over the world, and I can really feel it right here, right now at Sun La Stadium in Hanoi, although it was raining really hard an hour ago. So among the 12 football teams participating in the event today, who's going to win the game? We have to wait until the end to find out more. In the meantime, please join me to discover some food stand on this side with specialties from Germany and France, as well as other cultural exchange activities.
While the adults are competing for the cup, the kids enjoyed playing foosball and ping pong. And the foosball table was particularly popular.
Cháu đang chơi trò mô hình của sân bóng đá. Hôm nay thì cháu xem bóng đá thì cũng rất là thích ạ. Và bố con thì cũng đá cũng bình thường ạ.
Different food stands serving French and German specialties were also available, including world-famous German beer and sausages, French croissants and crepes for the crowd and players to enjoy. After 23 qualifying matches, the British Embassy and the Ministries of Transport emerged as finalists. The Ministries of Transport team, whose captain is Minister of Transport Linh La Thăng, emerged as victors after putting 3 past the Brits to win 3-0.
Một cái giải đấu mà mang tính chất như là một giải quốc tế tại Hà Nội thì mà lại giành được một cái giải vô địch thì như một giải World Cup ở Hà Nội. Thì đây là cái điều mà hết sức là vui mừng. Chúng tôi là xin cảm ơn Đại sứ quán Pháp, Đại sứ quán Đức và đã tổ chức cái giải đấu này để tạo ra một cái không khí gắn bó với các cái cơ quan của Bộ Giao thông cũng như các đoàn ngoại giao.
Coinciding the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil, the Hanoi Friendly Football Tournament was a chance to celebrate football, the World Cup spirit, and most importantly, the friendship between foreign countries and Vietnam. Hoài Lương, Vietnam Television, Hanoi.
And Connecting Culture has also wrapped up this edition of Culture Mosaic. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. Now, please feel free to contact us at culturemosaic@vtv.vn with any comments and suggestions you may have, or to tell us about any culture events you've been to and upload your own videos as well. You can watch repeats of our program online at vtv4.vn. Thanks for watching. See you again next week. Goodbye.